dumbfounded and astonished that we were questioning our reality. We were questioning our capability to discern fact from fiction, from the real versus the artificial world. And what I'm about to share with you is going to affect you and everybody you know. It could be happening to you right now and you don't even realize it, okay? It's going to factor in heavily to the calculus of the hybrid warfare that is ongoing in the run-up to the kinetic World War III. It is something that every prepper needs to be mindful of, because it's going to reach an inflection point in 2024, and it very likely will characterize a lot of the conversation around technology moving forward. Now, I consider myself a person of fair acumen, we'll say, a good discerning judgment in terms of the information that I expose myself to and scrutinize and decipher and share with you guys. I've been on the internet since the 90s, so I've seen every phishing scam, every ad scam, every malware scam there is, for the most part. And even when it comes to discerning the veracity of various news stories, I've become pretty adept at that, right? But this one took me in, man, and it strung me along, and I'm telling you, this is going to be a major problem. We are entering a period of time where the real and the virtual is becoming indistinguishable. And I'm not talking about the uncanny valley that we're all accustomed to. When you look at an AI image, and most people aren't even here yet, most people will still be duped by this. But when you look at an AI generated image of a person, if you really look close and somebody asked you, is this real or AI? A lot of people can tell that it's AI, okay? Because there's those things, it's a little too perfect, the lighting is a little too sharp, maybe a little oversaturated, whatever, right? Or maybe there's that one extra finger in there. That's usually the dead giveaway. And I'm still not entirely convinced that they don't do that intentionally just to make us feel okay about where this tech is going. Anyways, we're entering a period of time where the lines are becoming incredibly blurry. And when we became aware of what was happening to us with an individual who, I'll get into all the details, I'm not going to provide any identifiable information, because on a personal level, I have nothing against this person. And I don't even know if it's technically illegal what they're doing. In fact, I don't think it is illegal. It might be immoral, but it's not illegal yet. Anyways, and I don't want to draw any sort of negative attention to somebody who is being opportunistic with the technology that is currently out there, okay? But when this hit us, it was like a plot twist in a movie. It was like an aha moment, like, holy shit, we've been duped. And I guarantee you, this is going to be used in the most Machiavellian of ways that we ain't seen nothing yet, man. We are entering a brave new world. And the key takeaway from this video is going to be, you absolutely need to trust your intuition, okay, about certain things. If something seems off, if there's just a little sliver of a doubt about something that you're engaging with online, you need to trust that. And that's going to become ever more important, because once again, there's going to reach a point where your intuition is not even clued in on anything. Now, some of you know I have a background in psychology. I have an honors degree in psychology. I never went into grad school. I guess I just wasn't obsequious enough. I wasn't compliant enough. I wasn't enough of a yes man. And maybe I just, and maybe I'm throwing too much shade on people who go into a master's and PhD. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is, there's a thing in psychology. It's called the scotoma, okay? It's when you know something is, or when you can't see something, it's like a blind spot that you can't see. And typically this is in relation to things about yourself that you don't see that others might see. But maybe a better way of explaining it is it's like a psychological occlusion. It's something that you don't see, but you get a sense that it's there, okay? And with intuition, it's very important when a lot of people say, trust your intuition, trust your gut. Well, what do they actually mean by that? How do you quantify that? Well, there's an easy way to understand it. Your senses are taking information all the time, right? You're seeing things, you're hearing things, but you're only consciously focused on a very slim bandwidth of the information that is coming through your senses at any given time. And as a result of that, you're only necessarily paying attention to or focusing on, there's a small focal point, a focal bandwidth for what you're actually experiencing, even though you might be taking in other signals that for whatever reason are occluded from your field of view, because it's just, you can't constantly focus on everything, the lights, the sound of the air, and all this stuff. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is intuition is when you know something is wrong, right? You get the sense that something is wrong, but you can't quite pinpoint it what it is. It's like when you're around that person and they found, like, people who are around psychopaths or people who are just around like mass murderers or people who are committing crimes, and in hindsight, people reflected on it and they would find that there was some feeling that they had that something wasn't right when they're around this individual, but they couldn't quite pinpoint it. Like, there are these signals that they were being sent, but they couldn't quite nail down what exactly it was, because it takes a lot of mental energy to do so. So typically you go with that occlusion, you have a blind spot and you just run with it, right? And as a result of this, you can get taken in, and it can be very dangerous. Now, fortunately, the example I'm going to share with you today didn't involve any malevolence, or I don't believe the person was being malicious. I think that they truly mean well for the most part. I think they're being opportunistic. But what they're doing, and if somebody was to use what they did for evil, it's going to have dire consequences for society, and it's likely already happening, okay? And especially if SHTF happens, this is going to be utilized in a very negative way. So anyways, enough preamble. I just had to preface all that because what I'm about to share with you is so profoundly important, okay? Now, an individual solicited me, and I'm not going to name the individual. I'm not going to provide any identifiers because, again, it's not because they watch the channel and they claim to be a fan of the channel. It's because I just don't feel that would be constructive for me to call attention. As long as you generally take away the key principles that I'm going to talk about, you won't fall for this. Now, this individual solicited me to come on the channel to promote their book. It happens all the time. And occasionally I'll give it a second look. This happened to be in a subject area that I was interested in, and it's very difficult to find experts in this area that are willing to speak with preppers in a very even-keeled, non-judgmental manner. So I took the bait, and I was excited because, again, and the pace of things around here is very fast, but usually we do our homework, okay, and we go, and indeed, the first thing I did, I went and I checked out, okay, this guy's published several books, and they all appear to be legit books, fancy cover, great reviews, and all of this stuff, right? There were a few warning signs, though, throughout all this, okay? And things that that were occluded from my view, and that I just willfully decided to not put too much thought into, because I was so excited about this potential interview that we're going to do. And it distorted my perception of what was actually happening here. So anyways, we decided that, yeah, I think this is a great idea. And we had a phone conversation. And throughout the phone conversation, I was like, this individual seems, for the most part, like 85% what they represent. But something just wasn't right. They weren't using jargon that was typical of somebody who would be of the ilk that they were proclaiming to be a part of. They didn't seem to be utilizing any of the common nomenclature that a person in this field of study would use. And, that was kind of a red flag, but I decided, okay, maybe he was having an off day, and maybe, I know there's a lot of people who are great writers, but it doesn't always translate well into how they speak. And I'm one of those people. Like I'm a terrible speaker, believe it or not. And I mean, this has taken a long time to get to this point, but typically I'm a more analytical person, which is why I don't really do a lot of live stuff, because it's difficult for me to think. I have to organize my thoughts. And anyway, so this is why I'm quite sympathetic to that, okay, there's this incongruence between the literature that they've provided and how they're presenting. So I said, hey, screw it, let's do an interview, okay? So in the run-up to it, I propose, because with some of my interviewees, they're not always experienced in being interviewed. I mean, we've interviewed some very high-profile, distinguished people on the channel, from Peter Schiff to Lynette Zhang, Andrew Bustamante, Nate Haggins, Joel Salatin, like people who are very well versed in being interviewed. And then we've interviewed others who maybe not so much. So typically as a gesture, I'll send people some questions in advance saying, this is what we're going to talk about. And, just so you can organize your thoughts. My mission is never to try to get a gotcha moment. I'm not here to debate anybody. I'm here to interview you and see what your perspective is, right? And so I offered that, and the individual was kind of shooting from the hip, not flippant about it, but just like, I would rather just have a conversation. And I'm thinking, okay, they must know their stuff, right? They must really be on point. They must not feel the need to, have any sort of rehearsal or any sort. And rehearsing is good because it helps you organize your thoughts. Because again, not everybody can on the fly fully articulate themselves. That doesn't mean a person is stupid or anything. It just means that maybe they're more thoughtful and it's hard to put the words together, okay? So I said, what the hell, we'll just wing it then. And so we do up the Zoom call, and almost immediately I'm sensing something's wrong, because being a student of psychology, I'm well aware of nonverbal cues and body language. And one of the first things that occurred to me was that the individual was postured, and having done some martial arts in my day, the individual was kind of sitting like this while doing the interview. And this sort of, when you're in a fight, you want to have less surface area, right? So you typically are, different martial artists will have different perspectives on this, but you want to have less target area. So standing sideways a little bit is more advantageous. Now, sitting like this for the entire duration of the interview, it also symbolizes that they're potentially looking for a way of egress, right? It's like when you're interviewing somebody, one of the human lie detectors, they say, like, if you're looking at a window, or if the person you're interviewing is looking at a door or a place of egress, it's a sign that they're uncomfortable and they're looking for a quick exit, right? It's an unconscious thing. It's not that they're actually going to do it, but it's a sign that that person is very uncomfortable in the situation, or just wants to leave themselves an exit. It's unconscious behavior that we do, okay? Now, so whatever, we carry on with the interview, and I immediately realize that this person doesn't have a clue as to what they're talking about. Being a geopolitical dilettante like I am with my current events analysis, I'm still learning a lot. I have a lot left to learn. I've been complimented on my ability to connect certain dots. At the same time, I sometimes feel that I need more depth in my analysis, and that's only comes with time and lots of research into a specific field, okay? So I'm not even against being a dilettante, being a jack of all trades. And I'm not even saying that a person has to have a PhD to be on the channel, not at all. I think you can have very, savant-like characteristics without ever being certified in any sort of program. But so I'm in this interview with this person, and something doesn't seem right, but I just roll with it, because I figure, he's, it's the first time he's been interviewed, and maybe he's just not on the ball that day. Not utilizing jargon, not providing citations, not providing complete examples. I was filling in a lot of the gaps in terms of the things that he was trying to articulate. And it was just weird. But, once the conversation got going, it was a great personal conversation. Like, from a one-on-one prepper to prepper perspective, it was great. I have nothing bad to say about the person in terms of, just having a heart-to-heart conversation. I'm not saying you have to have a high IQ to, be interviewed by me or anything like that, to have just, a heart-to-heart conversation. It was great, but there was very little insight, actual new insight that this person was bringing to the table. And in fact, I found that it was almost like I was the one trying to inject little meaningful bits of insight, because I value your time and I don't want to waste it by bringing somebody on who's just pissing in the wind and just talking out of their ass. And that's what this turned out to be. Anyways, we conclude the interview. It was like 2 hours long, and I should say that I thumbed through the book virtually, the books that this individual had written, okay, and it seemed a little, some of the chapters in the books, the titles were a little, I don't know, just overly vague, and what's the word? Just kind of grandiose in their breadth, like trying to cram so much into one book. But anyways, I was like, okay, whatever, maybe he's just a big thinker. And we concluded the interview, and we decided that, okay, we'll put somebody on this, we'll edit the video, and there's probably a few points that we have to cut out because it was not really relevant. It would be a waste of people's time. We don't edit out interviews that are going to make a person look bad or that are going to take away. Like, what we want to provide you guys with is insights. So we were able to curate it down into something that I thought was going to be useful for people, okay? And this took her like 3 days, the communist camera girl. Took her 3 days, that's just an innuendo that we have around here. Took her 3 days to finally complete the cut. And by the time we got to the end of the cut, we're just like, something's not wrong. And this is like after probably a couple $1,000 invested in time and just people working on this video. And I'm just saying to myself, something's not right about this. So we get the team into super sleuth mode, where we all go and we research the background of the books and all this stuff. And the book text, like the text in the book, because admittedly, I didn't actually read the books because, this was a on-the-spot kind of interview. I figured, okay, he's going to talk about it. Send me some copies of the books. I can access, I kind of thumbed through like the initial parts of the book, like the chapters and just like the first chapter, but I never really thought about it too much. It seemed well written, and he had plenty of books. It all was legit, published, whole 9 yards on Amazon, great reviews. And in spite of the fact that I knew he wasn't educated, I knew he didn't have a PhD, I knew he didn't have a master's, I wasn't going to let that be something that prevented me from having him on the channel. But we did a bit more digging, and I noticed something uncanny, we'll say, about the manner in which the text was constructed. And then it just hit me. It's like, these fucking books were written by AI. And not just the books written by AI. The guy's emails that he sent me were written by AI. The guy's reviews for his books were written with AI. And we all just looked at each other like, holy shit. Because all along, something is not congruent there. There's incongruence with how the person is presenting and this body of work. And then we come to find out that he's a very prolific writer, writing and publishing many books in a relatively short period of time across subjects that were completely unrelated. I only looked at like the last 4 or 5 books, and they were all kind of, towards around the realm of preparedness, okay? We'll say, and somewhat preparedness adjacent topics. And the we start looking through the Amazon reviews, and they're all written in this way that the way AI writes, and I'm familiar with ChatGPT-4 because I sometimes use it. I'll say, can you please condense this article into a few key bullet points? It's just a great way to get the separate the wheat from the chaff when we're trying to process all this information that I disseminate every single day. And it has a way of writing creatively that is very lifeless and banal. It is very, it's like pretentious. It's saying a lot of nothing. Like you can say what it's going to say in a very condensed way. And 90% of it is usually just chaff. Okay. And what I found in reading not only the books and even the reviews, all the reviews had a similar structure to the paragraphs. Okay, and some of the reviews were a little bit critical to kind of maybe make them seem a little bit more realistic. And there was maybe one or two odd reviews buried in the deepest crevasse of the internet that we had to seek out that were like, oh yeah, this sounds like it was written by a person who has no idea what they're talking about. But you have to go looking for that. Okay, so we're entering an age where the literature that you're going to be consuming, unless you do due diligence with respect to background checks on the author, and you don't know if you're just being fed like bloat. We need a term for this. It's like sludge. It's sludge content. It's like bloatware. It's just the opposite of lean. I guess it's just fat. It's what would you call it? We need a term for this because this AI bloat is going to it's going to dupe a lot of people because you can use this. I can imagine countless ways that you can use this for evil. What I'm talking about, and again. Yes, maybe we could have done a little bit more of a background check on this individual. But like I said, it was in a subject area that I was excited about. And eventually, of course, we did catch it. And this thing never made it to print, thank God. Which is not to say it wasn't a good, heart-to-heart conversation. Again, the individual who's most likely watching this, on a personal level, I have nothing against you. But it is questionable what you're doing. And it is a subject of debate. And what concerns me is how this is going to be used for evil. Because we're entering an era where the deepfakes are going to become so incredibly accurate and indistinguishable from reality. And there may reach a point, what concerns me most, is we might reach a point where there is no fact check, where there is no cross-reference available, where there is no community notes. If we're talking about a lights out situation, but maybe some of the lights are left on, how do you know that the messages that you're receiving are from the government? How do you know that that press conference given by Joe Biden after the bombs dropped from his bunker, how do you know if that's real? And I'm deadly serious. There is a new news agency called Channel One News. Most people, 99% of people, if you didn't tell them that this was AI, they would have no idea. These people look real. They sound real. Everything about this looks completely fucking real. And we are just at the beginning of this. Now, for some people, they're seeing opportunity everywhere. And God bless the entrepreneur. But, man, this is going to be used for all kinds of evil in the future. I mean, untold levels of manipulation is going to occur as a result of this. And I just had to share this with people because if we can all fall for it, and I'm not saying that, some people have really great discernment and maybe you'll never fall for this, but we're not, old ladies who just got the internet and are clicking on the cure for sagging skin, okay? We've been around the internet. We're from all generations. People here who have our RT guy, we don't typically succumb to these sorts of, I don't even, it's hard to even call it a scam, because it's a scam, but it's so sophisticated in its presentation. And again, it's not illegal. So at least right now, this person was not, and I have to emphasize this, they were not proclaiming to be a PhD or anything like that, but I could imagine that there will be some people who do, and it would not be difficult to do. So you need to be very, very careful in terms of the information you are consuming. Trust your intuition, because now I'm pretty good at determining if something was written by ChatGPT-4. I've read enough of it that I'm well beyond the wow phase with it, and I'm not impressed anymore. So I can kind of tell, yeah, it's maybe using too many words or describing this in too much detail, or it's being a little too poetic in terms of its presentation of this information. So I can usually be able to induce what is what now. But for the average person who might not have the time because they're too busy working just to make ends meet to be familiar with these things, there's going to be all kinds of scams that are perpetrated on people utilizing this technology. And you absolutely need to be very, very careful. Always do thorough background checks, and no matter how excited you might be about a certain topic or subject matter, make sure you know who exactly is the author of that book, what they're about, what their background is. Make sure they're a real person. And the thing about the reviews on Amazon is that, and the rabbit hole goes deep, okay? The people who are making the reviews on Amazon, they have real avatars, but they're AI. And we would go and we would click on one of these reviews. It looks like a real person if you just look at the thumbnail. But then you zoom in and you're like, holy shit, that's not a real person. That's just an AI generated face. And it's not like, it's obvious right away. You have to look, right? You can see like the texture and the, it just looks a little too smooth in certain places. And these individual reviewing avatars, bots, essentially, had their own ecosystem of books and things of that nature. Like this is stuff you can buy. You can buy reviews off Fiverr. I mean, you could do that for years. But it's just reached a point now where, Amazon and social media is going to have a real challenge ahead, because we're this close. We are this close to you not being able to know if I'm real or not. And I think, however, it's going to take a while before it has that, what is the term that they use? That fallibility that humans have. One of our strengths is our ability to be wrong. And that's what is one of the things that will always perhaps give us an edge over machines, is that we make mistakes. And it's those subtle mistakes that we make that communicate authenticity. And that's what people really ultimately are going to gravitate to. But it's amazing to me how many people will click on one of these robot voice videos that sounds like robot voice, and it's completely AI generated. Like the script, they take these, they get these bots to aggregate the internet, the data from the internet, they summarize it using ChatGPT, and they get a robot voice to narrate it, getting millions of views, right? And it's pushing people towards a narrative. This happened a lot during the height of the Ukraine war in mid-2022, where these videos with robot voice were getting like hundreds of thousands of views every single video and pushing this certain narrative. And all it was B-roll. It was B-roll. It was not even video of the actual events themselves. It was just some robot saying 5,000 Russians died today utilizing blah, blah, blah in this district. And it was just complete bullshit. And the algorithm was pushing it for some reason. So I'm telling you, man, we haven't even scratched the surface of the damage that this is going to do. And if we have a lights out situation, but for some reason that internet is still working or you're still getting messages on your phone, be careful. Be very, very careful. In fact, I'm going to be doing an entire video just on that subject soon, because this is one of the unforeseen consequences of a SHTF with an intermittent internet connection in the age of AI. Because holy shit, could you imagine if we leave the world behind situation and you have whoever the country is that conducted the cyber attack that took down the grid, left themselves an opening to periodically send messages to people, and they were able to get the president to say something and show him visually saying something will look like him, but it won't actually be him. Could you imagine the damage that could be done by that? The misinformation, the disinformation. They could have Biden come on and say something like, we're surrendering to the North Koreans, or we encourage people to whatever, or, single out these people in society because they're the ones who did it. You could create untold levels of social chaos with this. And most people are going to eat it up. Even if only 50% of people ate it up. It's going to be more than that. Because there's going to be a fog of war. It's going to be confusion. But just imagine how this will be leveraged for warfare. And I'm telling you, man, this is... I don't think I'm blowing this situation out of proportion. Because it's not so much this particular incident. It basically made me aware of how it could be misused for far more Machiavellian acts in the future. So trust your intuition, because typically there's something there, okay? If there's ever a shroud of doubt in terms of the people you're engaging with online, trust that intuition and just do a little bit of digging, and you'll probably uncover the reason why, all right? And that's about all I got to say today. I hope you guys got something from that long-winded rant. Let me know if you've had any similar experiences with this in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.
Hey y'all, thanks. I just thought this video was important and relevant and thought you would enjoy it. So yeah, love you guys. See you. Bye. Have a great day.